Hey, this is Roy with Funny Stories with Roy. This is a story of how I met my best friend Dale. And yeah, that was something else. So I met him, I think, when I was 9 or 10 years old, probably. And we were, I had a good friend named Richard who lived, we had a field on both sides of our house, on the north and south side of our house. We lived right on North Oak there, 8711 North Oak, a red brick house there. But anyway, I had a friend across the street, across that field to the south from our house. His name was Richard. And Richard and I used to play down in the woods. We'd shoot our little slingshots off down there, and we'd, climb around on trees and, play in the creek and do the kind of stuff that, kids do in the woods. And the his parents had to move. His dad probably got a job somewhere. They had to move, so Richard, he went with him, of course. And so there I was. I didn't have a friend my age to play with that was close by. There were some kids down the street, over the hill and down to the dead end down there that I would get in a fight with them most of the time. So, I didn't want to go down there that much. And then there were some kids I knew across the street, across North Oak, but Mom never let us cross North Oak. She called that the highway, believe it or not, North Oak being the highway. But at that time, it was the main road through there. And so, it makes sense. She didn't want us to get run over, but she always made us stay in the backyard and not go across North Oak at all. So my friend Richard moved away, and I was like, man, this is a bummer. As summertime comes along. So I take my slingshot and I go down in the woods, and I had heard rumors that there was a group of boys that said they owned that part of the woods. But, you can't own the woods. I'm going to play where I want to. So I went down the woods there, and there was a creek, Shoal Creek, that ran through there, and there was a rope swing there, and a bluff that led up to where you used to swing off the rope swing and over the creek and stuff. But I was playing around that area, and I went across the creek. Seldom did I go across the creek and up that hill, but I did. I went up by that rope swing. And all of a sudden I heard some boys, they run out and they grabbed me from behind the bushes there. And they were older boys, and apparently they were the owners of the woods in their mind. And they hauled me up the hill there and held me to a tree. There were two houses up there that sat pretty far off the road, off of North Oak on the east side of the road. Up there behind where the that fitness place is, up there on the east side of North Oak, and there used to be a little Italian restaurant there, but back in there was a big wooded area, and there were two homes set, maybe 50, 60 yards off the road back there. I imagine they were part of the original farmstead, because there was an old barn back there and some farmland. So they were probably, these homes were built in the 1800s. They were pretty old. And they were probably, like I say, they were probably part of the original farming community there. But anyway, the Huguenons and the Carpenters lived in those two houses back there, back in the woods there. And they were holding me to a tree. I don't remember who it was. It was probably some of the Carpenters and some of the Huguenons, but whatever. They were holding me to a tree there, and they asked me, how old I was. I said, well, I'm 10. I was 9 or 10. I said I was 10. And they, back then there was a rule, ethics among kids. You didn't fight somebody younger than you. If you were 13 or whatever, you didn't fight somebody that was 9 or 10, you just didn't do that. Now, if you were little and younger and tough enough, you'd fight an older guy. You could whoop him, you would. But normally, older guy wouldn't bother with a younger guy. So they said, well, we're going to go get Dale. And I'm like, oh no, what's Dale? And they go and they're gone for, a couple seconds. And then all of a sudden I see Dale come from behind this tree. He has leaves and sticks stuck in his hair, and he just looks like a savage. And I was scared. Man, as soon as I saw him, I was scared to death. I took off running. I broke loose. I took off running through the woods. I'm running like a maniac down through there, and they're all chasing me and yelling. And I'm running down. I ran down the hill by the rope swing, and they're they're pretty close. I jumped across the creek, into the creek, and then across the creek, and I went running out across there, and I got it. I got in a little bit further away, and I got to a point where I thought I was safe, kind of in our territory. And I turned around and started yelling cuss words at them and stuff, all the ones that my dad had taught me. And I just hollered out, oh, you don't own these woods, blah, blah, blah. So I ran on home, and I was like, oh man, that was terrible. So that's how I met Dale. Now, apparently later on, I think maybe that same summer, the Huguenons moved away. And from one of those houses up there in the woods, they moved away. I think this is how it went. And so that kind of left Dale and his brothers and sister that lived up there. He didn't have anybody his age to, to play with. And so also like me, my friend moved away. So I would go down to the woods still because nobody tells me I can't play in the woods. So I go down in the woods and I would see up on the bluff up there, I would see Dale, or I would see somebody walking up there. And I'd look and like that. And, he'd look down there at me. And I'd be walking across the field. I'd see him up there. We were like wild animals sizing each other up from a distance, And I looked, I'd see him there. And the next day I'd go down there and I'd be playing all day in the woods. I mean, I'd just go down there all day long. I'd be playing in the woods and I'd see him again, and he'd be a little closer and I recognized him as this Dale character. And of course, minus the leaves and sticks and stuff. And so, eventually, like I say, like wild animals sizing each other up, we got closer and closer. And eventually, he was on the other side of the creek and I was on this side of the creek and we were close enough to talk to each other. And he goes, "You want to play?" I go, "Yeah." About like that. So we started playing. We started playing in the creek, catching crawdads and, fishing and building traps and throwing our hatchets, the kind of stuff that kids did back then. We got to where we could throw those hatchets and hit anything we aimed at. We were deadly accurate with them things. And our little wrist rocket slingshots. And, we made traps out of wood and we would try to trap all kind of things. We'd come down there and check the trap and we let everything go that we caught. We just want to see if we could catch stuff. One time we caught something in the trap and it chewed the heck out of the trap, chewed its way out. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't happy about being in that trap. That's how I met my best friend Dale. We've been friends for almost 50 years now. And, he's just a really, really, really good friend of mine. My best friend. And we had a lot of fun adventures. And I'll tell some of those in other stories, but one I can probably just pop off here real quick is one day we went up and we climbed the back of the Hillcrest Drive-In Theater. There used to be a Hillcrest Drive-In up about 95th and North Oak. And it had a steel ladder. It was concrete, believe it or not. It had a steel ladder in the back of it. And we climbed up to the top of that drive-in theater screen. And we set up on top of there. And Dale actually walked back and forth across that screen. I mean, I said, "Dude, you're crazy." And he's walking across that screen. We were kind of daredevils. I always say we had guardian angels watching after us, and they were working in shifts, and another angel would come in and he'd say, "Oh man, you won't believe what he's done. I'm out of here." And he'd clock out and the new angel would have to get to work, keeping us from killing ourselves. So that's my story about how I met Dale. I hope you all enjoy it. Have a good day and be safe. Bye-bye.